Hi, welcome to week 4 and module 4, which is the political frame. I'm excited this week to draw on a little bit of my own undergraduate background. I was a government and foreign affairs major, so the political frame definitely makes sense to me from that perspective. And hopefully, as you're going through and thinking a little bit about your own perspectives on the different frames and on leadership and how organizations work, you're maybe drawing on some of your own background in college as well. So the political frame to me is about power. Who has it? What can you do with it? And that's, I think, included well in the assumptions that Bowman and Deal put forth. They talk about organizations as coalitions or groups of people with differences, and that in times of scarcity, there's naturally going to be conflict between those different people and what they want. And so competition is seen not necessarily as a negative, but as a natural way for goals and decisions to arise within the organization. So it's always good, as I've said before, to look at those assumptions. And then I think the next chapter in Bowman and Deal, Manager as Politician, is especially helpful as you consider leadership, because a leader needs to know how to use political power, maybe not all the time, but some of the time. So that chapter does have specific management strategies and tips. And then the final chapter of Bowman and Deal this week is about organizations as agents or arenas. And so you can almost think of the business world. They talk about Walmart, or even the world of higher education as an ecosystem. So we're at Mary Baldwin, or if we're at PVCC, we're naturally going to be affected by the other parts of our environment, whether that's students graduating from high school, other colleges and universities and their strategic plans and what they're doing. So the organization can itself be a political agent, or it can be an arena for the individuals. But how those things fit together is almost like Bowman and Deal say, an ecosystem of effects and intertwining effects. And so then applying that further to higher education, Schultz chapter 5 talks about fiscal pressures. So I think that fits very well with that idea of an ecosystem and what the environment's doing in higher education. We do face a lot of fiscal pressures today, as I'm sure you are all aware of from your different career paths. And then there's the Kesner Partnerships Within Higher Education chapter. It talks a lot about the relationship between academic and student affairs. And then the 2 chapters on the political frame, depending on if you have the 4th edition or the 3rd edition, you may be reading Stringer, which I believe is the 3rd edition, or Ellis, which is the 4th edition. Stringer talks more about the political frame from an environmental standpoint, and Ellis talks about decisions explicitly as part of the political frame, but both of them are really doing a good job of applying Bowman and Deal's frame to higher education. And then similarly, for chapter 23, you'll either be reading Ellis if you're 3rd edition, or Wills if you're 4th edition, and talking about partnerships with the community. Wills is coming from a community college background, so I think that's a very valuable perspective to have when you think about partnerships. And then the final reading in this week, which has a lot of reading, is Barr, talking about budget. And so that certainly fits into the fiscal and scarce resource side of higher education and thinking about the political framework. So in terms of your group project, it's probably good to look at the partnership articles, both book chapters, either both internal and external, so both within your institution and with the larger community. And you'll also notice when you look at the Google Docs for this week, I didn't do as many questions to consider. And so I'd like you to submit some questions to consider for the different sections that we're reading. I know for some of you, the Google outline is working well. Others said in the survey that it's maybe not as helpful. So if it's not as helpful, try to find a way to pull together your own thinking about the reading this week on the political frame, whether that's emailing us what made sense to you, what you still have questions about, or if you want to do a paragraph at the end of the Google Doc on your own summary of the different readings. It doesn't have to be extensive, but what you thought was the most important, that's fine. Or submit something creative, like picture or something that makes sense to you. There's a few places I did leave blanks that you can fill in. So I will be excited to see what you all submit. It's also fun that our election season is happening right now, so we won't talk specifically about our election, but I hope you'll vote at the end of this module as you're thinking about politics and the political frame. So have a great week, and I will look forward to reading your comments.